Achieving nirvana is a state in which all Buddhists strive to achieve. I, however, do not formally practice Buddhism. I do not meditate, I do not attend Buddhist temples, and yet I still seek nirvana, but through a Buddhist philosophy found in the martial art of Judo. So what exactly is Judo? Well, hopefully this video will help you understand. So that was me fighting my first Judo match. And you might be surprised to find out that Judo actually translates to the gentle way. I know you're probably thinking, that? Gentle? Are you kidding me? And honestly, I felt the same way when at 15 I first began to practice Judo. But behind the fighting and the training, I began to find that Judo teaches a lot more about becoming the better person than it does about becoming the better fighter. In 1882, Dr. Jigoro Kano, at the time Director of Education for Japan, created a new martial art he called Judo. He took his knowledge of jiu-jitsu, combined for his love of education and philosophy, to create a new form of martial art, where the goal is to focus on improving the self, rather than simply winning. In 1915, Dr. Kano defined Judo as the way of highest or most efficient use of both physical and mental energy. Through training in the attack and defense techniques of Judo, the practitioner nurtures their physical and mental strength and gradually embodies the essence of the way of Judo. Thus, the ultimate objective of Judo discipline is to be utilized as a means to self-perfection, and thenceforth to make a positive contribution to society. Kano's description of Judo mirrors that of Pema Chodron's Buddhist mentality as stated in When Things Fall Apart, where she states, people need help, and there's no way to help or benefit anybody unless we start with ourselves. Dr. Kano's most important Buddhist philosophy he entered into Judo was the concept of emptiness. A Buddhist must live their life embodying emptiness to be capable of leaving the rigidness of suffering and therefore making it essential to reach nirvana. The Dalai Lama even calls emptiness the true nature of all things and events. And in Judo, you were told from the first day of your training to become an empty jacket. Therefore, you could become a great Judo player. Before you become a great person, you must learn to become empty. And to become empty, then eliminate suffering, leading to the path to happiness, which is what Judo sets forth for every participator. Behind the goal of helping others, there are two pillars of Judo philosophy. The first is maximum efficiency, where we do not fight against what we are dealt with, and we do not overreach in situations that do not need to be overreached. Oftentimes, in Judo and in many things in life, you find yourself fighting for things that do not need to be fought, trying to take control of something that just could be left alone. And in Judo, you really work on that. We must take what we are given, accept it, and try to find a way that will better ourselves. It's about taking someone's off balance and throwing them. It's not about trying to use your strength to throw. It's about taking what they have done and finding a way to work with that and ultimately becoming better. Dr. Kano states that this applies to human interactions in cases such as anger, where we allow it to build up and just waste energy instead of facing that anger, working with it, and conquering it. A major aspect of Buddhism is the idea of suffering, where just as in Judo, if you are in a painful situation, do not avoid it because that will only cause more suffering, which is also what the Zen teacher Matsunaga is explaining in his quote, by saying, do not work against things that are not on your side. Work with what you can and move along past all the hindrances that may be causing suffering. This is not only the key to the art of Judo and maximum efficiency, but to the practice of Buddhism and then becoming a better person. The second part of Dr. Kano's philosophy was the emphasis on the betterment of society. While in the first part he emphasizes on bettering yourself, he then believes one should use that newfound development of the self to help others and to benefit society. This aspect of Judo can be related to the story of the Buddha, as well as the path of many Buddhist practitioners, in which they perfect themselves and, in turn, use that knowledge to help others. Buddha left his comfortable home and went into suffering so that he could find a way to live life helping others and teaching the way to get past suffering. In Judo, it's the same concept. You want to work together, and each person in Judo knows that the person you fight against is not there to fight you, it's there to help you. In this picture, me and my competitor just got done fighting each other. However, we embody this philosophy of Judo, and we aren't angry. We don't share resentment towards each other. We share a mutual respect, knowing that we just passed on skills that we could use to better help ourselves in the future. A unique trait that Judo holds compared to most sports is that we bow to each other, which embodies the ideals of the second pillar of Judo. This simple action shows your competitor that you respect them and their Judo techniques. After the match, you must bow again to show thanks for working together and for the opportunity to better each other. As you improve in Judo, you reach new ranks determined by the belt you wear. And the great thing about Judo is a black belt, the highest and most skillful Judo practitioner, can fight a white belt, the lowest rank, and still lose. This is why in Judo it's important to understand that no matter how great you are, you could always learn something new and continue to pass it on to others. By practicing Judo and its Buddhist beliefs, I went from often being depressed and angry to a newfound happiness. That is why Judo is more than just fighting. It stopped me from the path I was going down, where instead of practicing Judo on a Tuesday night, I thought it would be a lot more practical to go get drunk and break the law. It also showed me that it could be humbling as I worked towards perfecting my technique only to be beaten by another. But at the same time, it allowed me to recognize some skills and knowledge that I already had and how I can benefit others on their road to perfection. Most importantly, the philosophy of Judo is not just to be applied in competition, but as you work towards living a better life. And as my technique in Judo improves, so does my practice of Buddhism, and therefore my work towards perfecting my spirit.